We have two experts here from the EU and Germany to share their perspectives on the findings discussed during this afternoon. I think we need to understand where we stand in order to be able to draw conclusions for the future of work, and therefore we have here on my right side Cristina Vicini. I understand that I think I can call you an AI expert, close to the EU Commission, and you're also a jury member of the European Innovation Council Accelerator. And with this being said, you have also experience of practical relevance. I understand that the EIC is scouting and funding AI unicorns equipped to build on European digital infrastructure. And you're also a computer scientist by background, so you really bring a lot to the table here. And on the other side, we have Michael Schönsten. You're the head of digital policy at the German Chancellery. But before that, you were also in the BMAS think tank. And of what I understood, you were one of the first supporters of the AI economics project here. And you said, the idea is good, let's bring it to life. So I'm really, really excited to hear what you're saying about the results being presented here today. Let me start with you, Cristina. So today we've heard a lot about the potential of AI in the future of work. So zooming out, from a European perspective, how do you assess the current situation of companies using AI in Europe, and maybe also particular in the terms of talent and investments?
Okay, I see you're not wasting any time.
No, jumping right to the point.
Right to the point. So let's put it this way. AI is one of the strategic pillars that the European Commission has chosen for the choice of the next unicorns. AI is specifically also connected with training methodologies, AR, VR, etc., etc. So there is indeed a strategic race to be relevant in the AI world. We're not talking about being first for the moment. We have already big examples, for instance, with what we call the GAFAM, like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and the likes, that have budgets and turnover like small nations. And they focus all their energy just on AI, at least much of it. You have China, that is a state agent, is not a private company, but they are actually, they have a vision, they have a strategy, and they implement it, and they have a huge amount of people there. India is also not irrelevant at all. If you think about who is at the head of the major corporations in the United States, is people from India, where you also have a huge know-how and a huge capital in terms of engineering and knowledge of technology. So yes, it is something that the whole of Europe is looking into. The challenge for Europe is the implementation. So the EU, for instance, has defined regulations, has also a framework for the implementation of AI, for the priorities that AI should have, which is discussed in the Council, which is discussed in the Parliament. But then, what is the implementation at each member state level? And there is now, with the Draghi report, a lot of talk about the capital union, about having a common market. Why that? Because capital, federating European capital from all the countries, from all the private actors, from public-private partnerships, is going to be key to stay in the race and to build also the know-how that we need about. And here I stop.
Well, thank you about your insights. Just the framework. So from a German perspective, Michael, can you add on, or do you want to add on to that?
Yeah, sure. I think Cristina also touched on many important subjects already. But first of all, I want to say how happy I am to be here, because seeing this conclude with the results, it's very, very, very close to my heart. I really think this project has been tremendously important, simply because of its combination of practical focus in the real world and then actual, pure academic conclusions as well, but that makes it, the combination makes it directly policy relevant, I think. And to get there, why I think so much that I need to take a little detour, I think. First, I want to talk about maybe our view on AI diffusion, so the quantity of AI that's around, where we say, yes, of course, we want more of that. We've heard all the reasons today. We have a demographic squeeze that, of course, forces us, at the level of the economy, to rethink resource allocation between sort of what humans are doing, what machines are doing. I think that's a given. At the same time, I think we do see a tremendous dynamic happening that we're very happy about. I think the IFO survey has been quoted already, but I think an increase, and practically a doubling of companies using AI, and this across the board in different sectors, is very interesting. I think also when you dive a bit deeper in the findings, it's also very, very interesting to look into how the sectoral distribution of the AI use is that they find. And we want to foster that more. So when you think of, okay, what's important for that, we need data, we need compute, and we need talent. So where do we stand in those things? When it comes to data use, we're really committed to reviewing the legal framework for data use in Germany. It's underway, and I'm pretty hopeful that by the end of this year, maybe in the first quarter next year, we will actually have concluded all the projects that are associated with the government's data strategy. That I think is a very, very comprehensive review, and really the first comprehensive review of many different data use regulations that are really aiming at enabling the use of data for AI at scale, both across the board when it comes to the federal data protection legislation, but also in specific sectors such as mobility data or health data or data for research. We're very committed to that. That said, we're a bit concerned about what's happening in companies. There are other countries where businesses, I make one example usually, which is from the United States, where you have the Data and Trust Alliance, where a lot of large companies there have gathered together to agree on metadata standards, for example. And that includes General Electric, Walmart, and Nike, so companies that really have nothing to do with one another, but they've understood that maybe having a joint language on data provenance can help everyone. That's something companies can do without the government. For a lot of stuff in digital, you don't need the government. So I think there's a lot that can still happen here, and we also need to move on that. I think when we look at investments, we see that ICT equipment in companies is an issue here. And I think earlier we heard a little bit about the distribution sort of AI and using AI in companies and what could possibly hold them back. Well, I think one of the big reasons is that the very basic infrastructure that comes 3, 4, 5 steps before you even think about using artificial intelligence. So the basic digitalization of your businesses in Germany is lagging behind virtually every other G7 country. And that's a big issue where we hope that with the tax deductions that were agreed in our economic package recently will make a difference. This bridges a bit from data to compute then. What I find quite interesting is the private sector investment in compute right now in Germany. I understand the controversies around that, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. But personally, I'm encouraged by investments from the US hyperscalers here, because to me that is a reflection of an expectation that the stuff that we're doing is actually enabling the data economy to grow, because that's the market that they want to capture. Whether that's investment from Microsoft or AWS or what have you not, in different places in Germany, that adds up to many billions of building up cloud capacity. And I think, this is business to business. And again, this is the controversy. Of course, everybody talks about sovereignty and sovereign cloud solutions. Of course, we're looking at that as well. But I also think that we need, to some extent, also let the private sector take its own decisions. And I don't think that is necessarily a big problem to have private investment. Actually, it's a good thing to have private investment in digital, also coming from the United States here. Hopefully, it's going to be used. At the same time, we need to, I think, get better to use procurement in this space as well, and we're working on that, but that is very, very difficult, not the least because of federalism, but yeah. And then finally, I just want to say a word on governance, because you mentioned the AI Act. We have decided how we go about this. We've made that public as well. I think we're aiming for really yes, this is additional regulation. I mean, we don't need to beat around the bush here. There is no way we can reduce administrative burden with new regulation coming on top of old regulation, but what we're trying to do is really, in doing so, that we make sure that especially companies are not going to have any new points of contact because of the AI Act, but can actually stay within the regulatory environment that they know and the established working relationships that they have. And the new stuff that we need to do and the coordination burden that comes with that, we really try to put behind the scenes. We try. So that's the governance concept that we agreed recently about a month ago, and are now in the process of legislating. So I'm actually quite optimistic on the diffusion, I have to say, and then maybe we can talk about the quality of the type of AI we want as well.
Glad to do that, but before we do that, I would like to ask Cristina, like, what your perception of the EU AI Act is, maybe, or in the regulatory framework in general, because Maike now showed us, the German perspective.
First thing I have to say, and I should have said it in the beginning, but please bear with me, my views are my own. So this is very important to say. First of all, I'm very impressed and very happy that in Germany you're taking the right steps and you're moving forward with it with purpose, because this is the most important thing to do. Second thing, about the AI Act, like any act, like CSSRD and all these various regulations or directives, it's always work in progress. So you can't find perfection. So anybody that says, but it's too restrictive, it's normal. There's nothing that is carved in stone. And one of the good things is that indeed our politicians, our institutions are very much lobbied by companies, by the private sector, and they get a lot of input about what to do, what not to do. But there's also, a very strong sense in Europe about the civil rights. And this is what differentiates the lifestyle and the quality of the lifestyle that we have in Europe from the rest of the world. So let's not forget that we are now a little late maybe in the race, because we did not start as early as the United States with the data economy, which is the one that now feeds the AI economy. But
And what's the reason for that? What do you think? Or is it a whole other discussion I'm opening up now?
I think it's mainly, in my opinion, it's the size of the capital that is feeding companies like Facebook. You have VCs that put tons of money, endless amounts of money on
So it's
companies.
about investment.
It's about investment. It's about joint investment. It's about the magnitude of the investment. And that's why also, for instance, it was very brave from the European Commission and the EIB, the European Investment Bank, to do that. They really decided to start with the European Innovation Council and especially the Accelerator. They put 10 billion in that. And for instance, each company that is a candidate, that has the potential to become a unicorn in Europe, gets to start with 17.5 million. 17.5 million per company, which is something that is unheard of in a tradition of giving a little bit of crumbs to everybody. No, here we decide we have big competitors in the world. They shape the way we work. They shape the way we live. They take the data that is ours and they do something with it that we can't control. So we have something to say about it, and we need to find the competitors to be able to define our own reality for the world. And I think that if you don't get there and sit at the table together with the big guys, you don't have a say. So that's what we're trying to do, and it's just an example. Of course, the EIC, but of course the Draghi report was also mentioning that. So yeah, we have hope. And the second hope I have is that, I have many, but also
It's good to hear.
generative AI is a little bit putting together a level playing field, because of course, yes, it's brand new. It's an exploration for everybody, also for the United States. So with us, we can have we have a huge amount, excellent research, and that's why we also have a terrible brain drain from from Europe, namely to the US and other places. So there's a bit everywhere. But
you're disagreeing, Michael?
For Germany, I disagree. Yes.
Well, we've seen with Mistral, for instance, in France. Three guys that happen to know. No, it's okay. Thank you. Three guys that happen to know Eric Schmidt. And of course, whether did they go immediately, they went to the United States because that's where they find
their capital. Yeah, of course.
They find the money, they find less taxes as well, they find a lot of good stuff. And then, of course, if we're lucky, they're going to be compliant with the European regulations. But
only when they are lucky.
Well, if we're lucky, because they're a private company, they do what they want. So hopefully they give back.
But I think that raises an interesting point because, so first on the talent, the reason I was skeptical was a different one. That was because Germany is the third largest net importer of AI talent. And I think the discussion sometimes gets a bit skewed here in Germany because everyone has a good friend whose cousin did a degree in computer science and stayed in Stanford or something like that. But when you actually look at the inflows and outflows and draw a line, per capita, I think there's really only two countries that do better even than we do. And that makes me hopeful as well, so that we're actually, we are attractive for talent. And I think one important aspect in that is also the structure of the German economy, and that you see that, I'm not shy naming companies here, but some companies, and you guys being one of them, but then also when you look at Bosch, for example, or Siemens, or even e-commerce companies like Zalando are some of the most important talent anchors actually for AI talent in Germany at global scale. Why? Because they offer tasks that are interesting to people that are trained at the highest level, so really at expert level, and want to work on that stuff. And I think if you're a computer science graduate and you want to work in something tangible, Silicon Valley is not the place to go. So,
what is the place to go?
Well, places where you can actually build things that weigh more than 50 kilos. That's usually not there. So I think there's a lot on offer. I think here, and that crowd exists. I think that's very important. But the other point, of course, the capital structures, that's important. And I think this is also important in the context of the regulatory debates we often have here that are posited in this false dichotomy between regulation and innovation. I think capital markets are the single most important factor for growing innovations in the digital space in Europe. And the Capital Market Union is therefore really our most important project. And I think the Draghi report has also been very clear on that. The Franco-German initiative on the Capital Market Union predates this quite a bit. We really hope to keep pushing that, also with a view to the start of the new commission, because we really think that deeper integration in the digital single market then also is a logical consequence of that, which I would say is the second big issue when it comes to scaling innovations here.
Yes, and what you made an excellent point about doing something that weigh more than 10 kilos, because indeed one of also, and especially in Germany, one of the big traditions in Europe is the industrial tradition. So this is where the next challenge also of Gen AI is going to be. So to go from Gen AI that is used in support functions like call centers or administration, all the way to the core business. So that's where even DG Connect has started a new office, which is Gen AI for EU, where this is really being explored. And this is where it's a level playing field. Nobody has done that before. So this is where we really have. And second, I stop there, we also are leader in quantum computing. Because without computer power, you cannot really process AI and the volumes of data that are necessary. So now, of course, it's voracious the way they use energy. So there is a twofold field of research. One, how to distribute or how to find data structures that allow you to consume less energy while having all the benefits of AI, and at the same time also being leaders in quantum computing. We also have supercomputer power that we can host from Europe. So this is good. And Germany is one of them with IQM and other.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Michael, do you want to add on that? Or I would then maybe also open the open the mic for some questions from the audience. Yes? Or first of all, do you want to comment? Then first comment, and then we are taking questions.
Okay, that way. No, I think what follows directly from that is also the question about the quality. You mentioned data structures. I think that's very important, and I think that's the part that I think most directly probably relates also to the project here. I had an interesting meeting yesterday at the OECD, also with Arthur Mensch from Mistral. So we did talk quite a lot about sort of where they see their products go, and I think one of the interesting parts is we see a rapid commodification of foundation models right now. So they're there. How do you actually earn money with that? I think that's an open question, and I also think it's important sometimes to zoom out a little bit and say, okay, we have a big discussion around the impact of foundation models and generative AI right now, but there's a lot of other methods that are really, really directly relevant as well, maybe more than that in actual real-world use cases. And I think it's worth thinking a little bit about what type of AI do we really want on different levels. First of all, what fits best to the data structures that emerge from the economic structures that we have in Germany. Are sort of large centralized models really the best fit for that? Adaptive as they may be or not to smaller data sets. What about the capital structures? We mentioned that. Also, what about the skill structures? I think we're good. How do we leverage the domain knowledge that we have in many domains that really goes deep? For example, manufacturing, but also healthcare. Ranging from drug development all the way to patient care. Those things I think are really important. And then, of course, the question that you raised, what fits to our societal values. And I think there we also can, point out that, yes, we have deficits in integrating the single market. In the digital space, we're working on that. We have deficits in capital market union that we're working on. But what I really don't accept is that it's a bad thing to say, privacy rights or data rights and transparency rights are actually a bad thing and hindering innovation. They just direct innovation. And I also think that the actors in the digital space here have a deep recognition of that and a deep commitment. When you talk to tech entrepreneurs, my impression of the Europeans really is that they're really, really committed to those things and see that rather as a challenge, for them to develop products that work.
Thank you. Do you want to add on that?
Yes, I want to add on this also because we have so
one ad and then questions from
very
the
small
audience. Then it's your turn.
So AI is here to stay. So there's nothing we can do about it. So we have to accept it. One of the big challenges that we face as well, and that's where also our European values matter a lot, is that AI has increased dramatically the speed of innovation, but also the magnitude and the pervasiveness of the impact of one single action driven by AI, and that we see also in the cybersecurity space. And we have regulations like NIS 2, for instance, that determine what is the responsibility of companies that manage user data also in Europe, and what is their accountability for not misusing this data. And I think that this is going to be extremely important when you have not only state actors that conduct cyber attacks on our infrastructure, on our health system, but also mercenaries coming from everywhere in the world. So it's really, really an interesting world out there, and I think we have to be ready. And every single one of us, the good thing is that every single one of us is an actor, an actor for the development of the market, and we're all at the same level. So there's no way that someone has to fear embracing AI because we're all beginners, we're all learning. And so the earlier we help each other and we learn more, the better it's going to be for us.
Yeah, thank you for these words. And I think AI economics is laying the foundation for these fears and for the optimistic view. So now open for questions. Please, say your name and your affiliation.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm one of the researchers on AI economics at Maastricht University. And I think it's something that I hadn't noticed either of you mention was chips. And obviously in the Netherlands we have ASML, which is very vital for that. And then the US has been investing a lot in the CHIPS Act. I don't know if the Draghi report mentioned chip investment or if either at the EU level or the German level, this is something that you're thinking about and have a strategy for. It'd be interested to hear about that.
That's of course a very thorny issue these days, but yes. No, we did. I mean, we don't know where the situation is really going precisely with the delay of the Intel investment in Magdeburg, but behind that stands a bigger question that has nothing to do with the individual company, which is when you look at the semiconductor production chain right now. You mentioned ASML, sort of they're I would say already an intermediate supplier, and the more basic ones, then you have Zeiss, Trumpf, whatever, those guys that build the lasers and the optical systems that then go to ASML's machines that then go to right now TSMC, Intel, and so forth. And for us, the question has really been in this. Do we want to stay at that level of production capacity? This has worked so far, but we also saw already during the pandemic and mostly through when we had this combination of supply chain interruptions because of the pandemic and because of the accident in the Suez Channel back then, how quickly we had widespread production problems in our economy here in Europe because of production of let's say the actual production of chips being finished somewhere else than in Europe. So investments in production capacity have been very important, and yes, I think that does play a role. I think there's also capacity for questions for activities around chip design. Look at Apple in Munich, for example. I think clearly the talent is here. Maybe one day a European company is going to use it as well. So yes, this is on our mind. We consider that very important, also strategically very important, simply because of the geopolitical situation where we don't know what's happening in Taiwan.
Yes, I can maybe add that and support absolutely what you've been saying, because so with the EIC and in Europe, chips production, but also chips design is one of the strategic pillars because of the sustainability of the value chain, of the supply chain, sorry. So this is absolutely major, and that's why also a lot of European money has been put in investments in Saxony, for instance, for creating foundries that are going to sustain the demand of production of chips from all over Europe and possibly also from abroad.
Thank you. So, is there another question from the audience? I don't see any. There's one.
Hello, I'm Konrad. I'm just like as self-employed, or like from myself. I'm come here, not a big foundation company, and I wanted to ask, in which way do you think is the AI Act a big step into regulating, and on the other hand, on which way it is like hindering the development of modern models in comparison to a or not really regulated market in Asia and Northern and America. Yeah.
That's a good question. So you mean actually the balance between regulation and innovation, where the balance was found?
Yes, this is an excellent question, because indeed this is the core of the issue about indeed regulation in general. So there was a study conducted also by Digital Europe about young startups. What do young startups in AI do when there is a regulation like the AI Act, and what is their field, etc., etc. So from the study, it came out that, first of all, there is this system of sandboxes, so you can experiment within a certain frame everything you want, and then that there you test also the limits and the potential, if there is any, but mostly the limits of the regulation. So startups are asking for these kinds of products because once you have a good framework to work in that leaves you sufficient freedom and but gives you stability, because any company needs stability to grow. So you need to have a set of rules that also guarantee your competitiveness compared to other entrants from the rest of the world. So regulation can be taken in a very good way, and this constant dialogue between SMEs, startups, and the policymakers, and for instance in Germany, I guess you were one of the point of contact, or if not the point of contact. So this is really something where SMEs are giving huge input. So yes, it's necessary. And also SMEs, self-employed, we were talking about it, self-employed don't have anything. I mean, it's nice to have a nice protected environment with a large corporation that is going to keep the data private and within the frame of the company. But what about an independent person that uses data from the outside, or that doesn't have any tools at hand except those that indeed take that data and puts it in the big box where you can be spammed, etc., etc.
And maybe the economics team has something to say on that as well. But I would say that when you as a self-employed person or a small startup are looking to develop something with a customer in the customer's company, having a sandboxing approach definitely can work. And then when you wonder how to actually set up a process that can work in a collaborative way, I think we heard a lot about how that can actually happen from the examples that were mentioned here. And perhaps that could become a proprietary offer. I'm just making suggestions here, but this is right. Before you trademark it, maybe you want to think open source is nice as well. Public money, public method. Can we talk about that later? But I think that's that precisely this is, I think, the value that we've seen in looking at not just sort of the macro results, but also really the steps taken inside of companies. How do you actually engage the people who work there in the development of the concrete product? That's something, of course, you can do as a service provider to a company in a B2B relationship as well. And as you engage with a client. And then I think when it comes to sort of how big is this AI Act, I think it's perceived as like this one big monolith of AI regulation, which it isn't. I usually break it down that I would say it does three things. We ban a couple of things. We extend product safety legislation to software. I think that's actually a really, really big thing, I admit, but that's key. And then there's this third part on very generously called general purpose AI, meaning what people are doing with foundation models. That's its own thing, and very agile, also looking at sandboxing, but also at sort of actually not regulating by law, but really by executive orders and a code of practice that's being developed right now, so that you can keep adapting, precisely because of the concern that if we overregulate now, it's going to take too long to modify and scale back. So on this part around the uses of foundation model based AI, I would say the AI Act is actually hopefully going to remain pretty flexible. And yeah, we do try things out. This whole thing is an experiment at scale as well. So that's maybe something to keep in mind as well. Like you said, it's never finished, but yeah.
Thank you. I think we're coming to an end. So I have one last question to you both. Make it quick and dirty. No, just quick. So the title of our conference is Navigate the Future of Work. And what is the key message maybe you want to share with the audience in regards to AI, how to navigate the future of work? Maybe the most important thing that comes to your mind. I know it's a big question, and I asked for a short answer, so just like the one thing that pops up in your mind.
It gets a lot better when everyone can participate in the development of the technology.
Thank you.
And never stop being curious. never stop learning. I think this is the key, together with the Mitbestimmung, that is part of the German culture as well. So there you have another advantage compared to other countries. Never stop learning, and don't be afraid of learning. Learning can open new horizons. Retirement is not always the end of it. That means it could also open views for new kinds of works for other people as well that have a new career after retirement. So it's important to keep the human dimension. The human dimension is the core. Common projects among humans make the beauty of life. So let's not forget that.
Thank you so much. I think it could not have been a better ending to this great conference and this great afternoon, and so many messages were transported here this afternoon. And I will now switch to German to end the conference. Was ihr gesagt habt, Co-Kreation, Neugier, Lernen sind alles Dinge, die uns als Menschen auszeichnen und die uns weiter begleiten in der Gestaltung von KI, in der Arbeitswelt, aber auch in der Gesellschaft. Und das finde ich eine schöne Nachricht, die hier aus diesem Nachmittag raustransportiert werden kann. Staatssekretärin Lilian Chan hat es in ihrem Anfangsstatement schon gesagt, ab 2035 wird es keinen Job mehr geben, der nicht mit KI in Berührung kommt. Von daher denke ich, ist es wirklich essentiell und wichtig, sich mit diesen Fragestellungen auseinanderzusetzen und wirklich auch sich mit den Forschungsergebnissen von AI Economics auseinanderzusetzen. Bevor alle aufbrechen, habe ich noch ein paar wertvolle, wichtige Punkte zum Teilen. Und zwar die Policy Briefs gibt es auf der Homepage. Ebenso kann man die Poster runterladen und sich nochmal genauer anschauen. Genauso wie Fotos, die auf der Veranstaltung gemacht wurden, werden den Teilnehmenden zur Verfügung gestellt und die Videos. Alle Panels wurden aufgenommen. Das heißt, wenn man da nochmal nachhören oder nachschauen möchte, ist das ebenfalls möglich. Und jetzt lade ich Sie ein, bei einem abschließenden Empfang sich noch weiter über diese wichtigen Fragestellungen auszutauschen und weiter im Dialog zu bleiben. Vielen herzlichen Dank. Danke.